It was late in 1908. Vance Palmer was working in a coal mine, a source of great value during this time period. His job was known as the chopper boy. The job of a chopper boy was to open and close the trapdoor to the mine shaft. Vance sat all alone in the dark all day with a single candle to keep him company. Occasionally, a mine worker would knock on the door, and Vance would let them through and quickly shut the door behind them. These few miners were the only people Vance would see for the entire day.
One night, Vance was working when he heard a knock at the door. He opened it as he usually did, for knocks were how he was informed he needed to open the door. As the door creaked open, Vance held up the one lantern he was allowed to have with him. He peered around and saw no mine carts trying to get through, so he closed the door and sat on his bench. He began to ponder where the knock could have come from. Perhaps it was just his own insanity. A few minutes later, he heard a knock again. He opened the door once again, and nobody was there. Vance could feel his mind fading in and out of insanity. How could he keep hearing a knock without any person present? Perhaps it wasn't a person at all.
He heard heavy breathing and someone pacing. However, he could not see anybody. After staring into the empty mine, Vance began to make out a figure. This figure he saw appeared to be a thin, white matter moving back and forth. Vance sat down his lantern and took a step forward, into the shaft to get a closer look. As he did, the figure immediately turned toward him and hissed. Could it be a ghost? Vance raced for his life out of the shaft. He bolted for the door in hopes that he could close it quick enough to block out the evil, hissing creature. No matter how quick Vance was, the ghost seemed to be much quicker. The race to the door seemed to go on for hours. 1 minute, Vance was leaving the next, and the ghost. The two were nearing the door. Vance sprinted with all his might and managed to get his hand on the handle. The ghost, being much trickier, began to pull the door closed as well. Although Vance's intentions was to shut the door to the shaft, he did not intend to be trapped with this evil matter. Finally, the ghost slammed the door, leaving him both in the cold, dark mine shaft.
3 years later, in 1911, two boys by the names of Dennis McGee and Arthur Albecker were working in the Lee mines. They worked as breaker boys. One day while they were working, Arthur heard noises coming from the coal chute. Now, these noises were not the typical noises that come from a coal chute. These noises sounded like the screaming of infants. Arthur called his friend Dennis to come over and check it out. Dennis bent over the coal chute to see what was making the noise. Suddenly, Dennis stood up straight, as if he had seen a ghost, and whispered, "It's Vance Palmer." Immediately, the ghost of Vance rose from the chute and pulled Dennis into it. Dennis had been ended, his whole body smothered in the chute. After the ghost was done with Dennis, he went after Arthur. Arthur saw Vance coming and grabbed onto a railing and held on for his dear life. The ghost pulled as hard as he could, yet only managed to swing the body closer to the flames, close enough for Arthur's legs to be burning away as he held on for dear life. Finally, Arthur yelled, "Enough," and the ghost left him, but not without taking Dennis as well as Arthur's hope of ever walking again.